Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Carl, a member of the CK-12 team, and we're coming to you live from the world headquarters of the CK-12 Foundation here in beautiful Palo Alto, California. My colleague Lindsay and I will be running today's webinar, Getting Started with FlexBooks. We're so glad that you've joined us and are participating in the CK-12 Certified Educator Program.
Yes, thank you to everyone who's joined us today, and welcome to day 2 of the live sessions for the CK-12 Certified Educator Program. We have built this program for educators who want to go deeper with CK-12 and really become experts at using our platform to help make teaching easier and to truly personalize the learning experience for students. In order to become CK-12 certified, we want to do a few quick reminders these first few days of the program to let you know what you need to do. So for certification, you're going to watch 2 on-demand sessions. We launched the first on-demand session called the Certified Educator Program and CK-12 Overview this past Sunday, July 1st. If you have not watched any of those sessions yet, we broke it down into 5 parts, that first session. Please make it a priority to do so, since we think it sets you up for success and should help answer any questions you have about the Certified Educator Program and navigating CK-12. You'll find that in Google Classroom, which we'll talk about in just a second. The second on-demand session is what you're going to do at the end of the program. You're going to have about a week to watch a session called Beyond the CK-12 Certified Educator Program. So we'll let you know when that's available at the end of the live sessions, and you will have until July 31st to watch it. Next, you're going to need to join us for 5 or more live sessions, like the one you're in right now, where you can choose between times offered and content covered. If you need to register for more sessions, you can do so at any time at ck12.org/register or in our Google Class. You'll need to complete the accompanying assignments that go with all sessions. And then toward the end, you're going to complete a final form to request your certification, and then you will be CK-12 certified. Google is a partner of the CK-12 Foundation, and we're using a Google Class to organize all of the materials and assignments for this program. You should have received several emails from us about accessing our Google Class. If you did not receive any emails, we've had some users report to us that our emails have hit their spam folder. Please check there and make sure that you're getting our emails. We don't want to go to your spam. Your email has a join code that you need to access this class. So if you've not joined yet, we hope you're going to be able to join soon, because that's where all of our resources are. But don't panic. If you're not in, there's plenty of time to get you in the Google Class, and our team is going to help you with this. Because like I said, that's where you're going to find our first session that is 5 parts. You're seeing a little screenshot of the videos there. And you'll need to watch those videos to complete the matching assignment as soon as you can. At the end of today's webinar, we will stay on and answer any questions that you might have regarding Google Classroom or anything with the first overview sessions. But right now, we want to get going toward today's content. So a few reminders about how we use Zoom for these webinars. You guys are looking at 2 windows right now. There is a Q&A and there is a chat. The Q&A is where we want you to put those questions that you want CK-12 to directly answer during the webinar. We will pause after different sections and we will answer any questions that are in Q&A. We'll answer some live. Carl and I are here to answer live questions. Then we have a support team, Star and Katie and Michaela are in the room, and you're going to see all of us typing answers to some of your questions as well. In the chat window, that's where you guys are off and running with the community conversation. Do make sure that you have changed the option to say all panelists and attendees. In the chat window, we want everybody in the community to be able to see what you are discussing. So if you have not introduced yourself or put the grade or subject you teach, now is a great time to do that.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'd also like to give a big shout out. I know we have large groups of people, it looks like from Nebraska and from Oceanside, and we know there's whole districts here that are really moving into CK-12, and that's great to see. Also, a special shout out to people where it's the middle of the night. I know we have someone here from Italy where it's midnight, and Israel where it's 1 a.m., and then kia ora to our New Zealand friend, but it's 10 in the morning there, not so bad. Anyway, thanks to everybody around the world for joining us today to learn about CK-12's flagship product, the FlexBook. And I'd like to find out a little bit more about you and your interest in FlexBooks. In a few seconds here, you're going to see a poll that will prompt you to respond to a short question. All right, thanks, Michaela. So, have you used and or customized a CK-12 FlexBook? And your options are: I have yet to use CK-12 FlexBooks, I use CK-12 FlexBooks without customizing them, I customize FlexBooks, and I have built a FlexBook from scratch. So I'll give you a few moments here to respond. You guys are doing a great job. Almost 80% of you have responded at this point. And once we get everyone's vote, we'll go ahead and share the results with you. All right, do your final vote, and then we'll share it with you. All right, let's go ahead and share those with everybody, and you can see almost 75% have yet to really use a FlexBook. So definitely you're going to find out some really important information here. 18% of you have used them before without customizing, 10% have already customized, and 4% of you, 5 people, have built a FlexBook from scratch. So the good news is we're going to catch you up all the way through that building a FlexBook from scratch by the end of today's webinar. So you'll all feel comfortable doing that. So let's get started with today's session. And as I said, it's called Getting Started with FlexBook. For those of you brand new to FlexBooks, or perhaps those of you who have used our FlexBooks in the past, but have never really customized for your specific curriculum, this is a great place to get started. Specifically, during this webinar, we'll be covering the following topics. Why choose CK-12 FlexBook? Why customizable and shareable content is so important to educators. And what features make CK-12 unique, and why customizable and shareable content is so important. Finding a CK-12 and CK-12 content, CK-12 FlexBook and CK-12 content. Navigating CK-12 defined concepts, our original FlexBooks, our concept collection FlexBooks, and also FlexBooks that come from our users. Customizing a FlexBooks, the basics of editing, whether that's deleting, reordering, adding, and uploading content, as well as best practices on how you can work with others to collaborate on creating your FlexBook. Finally, we'll do publishing and sharing your FlexBook, how to get your books in the hands of colleagues and students through the unique URL, schools page, ShareOplane, and offline reader. By the end of today's session, you should be able to find a FlexBook to customize, start a new FlexBook from scratch, customize a FlexBook, add chapters and sections, change and add chapter descriptions, reorder chapters, delete chapters, make some basic edits, highlight and take notes, publish and share a FlexBook, understand best practices when collaborating with colleagues, and successfully use FlexBooks with students. Last summer, several of the participants asked if we could prepare a handout that would accompany each session. You spoke and we listened. So we're pleased to share with you the session resource page. This will help you not only today, but also later. We realize that you will be getting a lot of information during the next few weeks. So these resource pages will show you the key information and help remind you how to use the CK-12 resources covered in this program. Feel free to share any feedback to help improve them, since it's our first year doing them. You're also welcome to print these resources before a session begins if it helps you follow along, or of course you can use it afterward as a handy resource as you're working on the assignment or working on a FlexBook during the school year. For those of you who choose to attend the advanced FlexBook editing session, here are some types of things we're going to cover in that session. Uploading, editing, and adding attributions for images. Figure versus inline images, the Creative Commons licensing, embedding videos and multimedia content, using CK-12's math editor, the LaTeX coding, linking to CK-12's amazing interactives, headers and subheaders, tables, element boxes, page breaks, PDF versus on-screen view. If you're wanting to get additional help with any of these skills right now, please be aware this is a getting started with FlexBook, focusing on the basics. So we'll prioritize those questions during the webinar. Don't worry though, because we always stay on at the end of the webinar to address any complex editing questions that need a live demonstration. We'll also encourage you to join us for the advanced editing session. We think it's a great next step to today's session.
Okay, so why choose a FlexBook? What makes us different from other content providers or platforms? You have a choice when choosing how to deliver content for your students. And we know that you could choose a traditional textbook, one that costs a fortune, weighs 10 pounds, is outdated from the minute it's on your shelves, and one that never really follows the sequence of how you teach your subject. But many of you are here today because you've already decided that that model is outdated and just too costly as more and more schools are becoming budget conscious. So then you're faced with another choice: how to replace those textbooks and still have a quality curriculum to give your students. Some teachers are using Google Docs as the solution, but as many of you know, this isn't the best replacement for a book. It could be a lot of things in a lot of different places, and students and parents sometimes feel like they're missing out with a single source of content. So this is where CK-12 FlexBooks can really change everything for you. Several years ago, Coeur d'Alene schools in Idaho decided to go with CK-12 instead of traditional publishers' books for 5 courses. They have an incredible team of educators who work together to customize the CK-12 content and then add in their own content they've created and curated from other sources in a sequence that works for their school. So they've done the right thing. They've already customized for their needs and their students, and they've really found it useful to do an annual update to those books. CK-12's FlexBooks are really the best way to get quality customized content in the hands of students.
One major advantage to CK-12's customizable content and interactive books is they can be accessed anywhere, anytime, and on any device. You have the power to read the entire collection of CK-12 FlexBooks on any personal device, and you can download the textbooks to read offline with our app. Our friends in Lincoln, Nebraska are going to compile their content in a FlexBook, and all of the students are going to have access to it on their devices through a URL. But one of the missions of CK-12 is to get our books in the hands of any student who wants to learn, even in areas where the internet isn't readily available. So that's why we developed our Chrome offline reader, making content available without consistent connectivity, even beyond personal devices. That means that even Chromebooks, laptops, desktop computers can now access CK-12 content when not connected to the internet. So be sure to go to the app or Google Play stores and download the app for any mobile device, or click on the offline reader link on any FlexBook page. And we'll see this in a few minutes. And remember, all of the resources are free at CK-12. You won't be asked for a credit card or hit a paywall. We're a nonprofit trying to make education accessible, and we're proud to be a cost-free solution to you.
While we don't charge for any of our content, you can still rest assured that our FlexBooks are the highest quality. To write our FlexBooks, we follow a model similar to the traditional publishers. Our content has been developed by hundreds of people with PhDs, people who are professors, teachers, authors, NASA scientists, and other subject matter and domain experts over the past 11 years. You can always see a list of our authors and learn more about them on our Meet the Team page. While we are like traditional publishers in the creation of our content, the benefit of using a FlexBook is the ability to customize. With our Plix and Sim modalities, with videos, with resources you curate from other sources, all of this brings life to your content. Another thing that you can't do with a traditional textbook is translate it into another language. Well, you can do that with our FlexBooks. We have some Spanish editions of FlexBooks built on our site, but with this Google Translate option that you're going to see in the bottom right corner of your screen, you have the ability to change our content into almost any language with just the click of a button. Also, one of the few concerns I ever hear in making the leap from going from print to digital is that students miss out by not being able to highlight a book or to write in the margins. And our FlexBook has the ability to do this. Students can highlight right on the screen, and they can take notes that will always be available in their accounts that they can access later, revisit, or use to study for upcoming quizzes.
I think now's a good time to show you a couple minutes of video footage highlighting some of our FlexBook users in Utah, Texas, Tennessee, and Idaho. You'll get a glimpse of our executive director and co-founder, Neeru Khosla, who started CK-12 back in 2007 to radically change the old textbook model.
I love learning, and I actually really love books. But the problem with textbooks is that they are actually very limiting format, and not every child can learn from that. Textbooks are created to be average, so you cover almost every kind of student. The problem is that that doesn't work for every student. That's why we created FlexBooks. These are textbooks that are current, customizable, and of course, free.
We would be flat as teachers if we weren't always asking ourselves, what's in the student's best interest? What's going to be down the tunnel for them? Down the tunnel for them is less and less printed textbooks and more digital resources. And I'm not preparing them for their futures if I'm not learning how to use those resources as well.
CK-12 was an obvious choice for us. We were able to experience some cost savings with it. The content is rich, it's engaging to students, and it's flexible. So it allows us to really tailor the tools to meet the needs of the instruction.
We can embed multimedia components to make it more engaging for our students, to make it more relevant for our students, so that they're no longer using a static textbook, but one that's dynamic and rigorous and high quality and easily updated. Teachers can go and find a textbook that meets their needs, and they can constantly revise and edit as they go along.
CK-12 actually meets and exceeds the standards that are required by our curriculum, our state and district curriculum.
I didn't realize that something as simple as online textbooks could change the way that I teach that much, but it's been pretty much a door that has opened that I can't close anymore.
If I were speaking to someone that was considering the CK-12, I would say don't hesitate because of just the savings and just the practicality of it, but the current information and the ease of use with our students who are engaged with technology, there's just nothing else out there like it.
Okay, we hope that seeing videos sometimes helps puts it in perspective for you, lets you get an idea of how teachers and administrators and students around the U.S. are feeling about some of our products. Before we go on to our next topic, I think now's a good time to look at our Q&A queue here. And Carl, let's tackle this first question here. We've got a question that says, has there been results that suggest what is the best order of topics in FlexBooks?
That's a great question. And remember, our FlexBooks were created by subject matter experts and domain experts, just like the big publishers have. These are people that are very familiar with the curriculum and really understand how the learning progressions matter. So the good news is we think the order that the FlexBooks present the content in is a great order. Now, in reality, we are familiar that a lot of districts mandate scope and sequence. So the benefit of a FlexBook is that you can go and you can reorder anything you want to put it exactly matching what your school or district has said should be the order that you teach it. So kind of depending on who is asking you to do what, you might just keep the order that the FlexBook's in, but you also might have to adapt it so that you can be teaching in the order that you're required to teach it.
Okay, we have a question about the resource page of where you find those. Just a reminder that all of our materials are being housed in our Google Class. And we find it easier when you're in our Google Class environment to kind of go over to the left-hand side, which serves as a table of contents of sort. Our sessions are listed in alphabetical order. And so if you click on this Getting Started with FlexBooks session, one of the resources that's going to be available is this page. You can see these pages for sessions that you're not in. We're doing a slow rollout of our materials. So once we have a session, you'll see a resource there. You'll see an assignment. So here next week, you can do a review of all of the resources that are available to all of our educators. Somebody's requesting an in-depth look at the highlighting and screen note taking. So I think, Carl, if you just want to make a note of that as you're demoing, to be sure to show off our highlighting and screen note taking. And trying to see, I think we might keep on going here. Please keep asking your Q&A questions. Again, we've got a team typing answers, and we'll continue to field some of those live. But let me show you a little bit about, before we really dive into the nitty-gritty on our site and customizing a book, I do just want to show you an overview of some of our most popular FlexBooks. The simplest way to get started with CK-12 FlexBooks is to grab one of our existing books. From there, you can click Customize, rename it, and then share a URL. There is a unique URL for all of the things, all the resources you see on CK-12, and you can always just share that at any time. So on this slide, you're seeing some of our most used FlexBooks on CK-12. They often focus on middle and high school. Here's the middle school books. We offer earth science, life science, physical science, and biology. We also have FlexBooks for grades 6, 7, and 8 math. Here are some of our high school FlexBooks. Science topics include biology, chemistry, physics, and earth science for high school. We have comprehensive coverage for high school math as well, and we're very excited to share brand new Common Core high school math books, which are now available on our website. These books have been totally written from the ground up and features lots of interactives in each lesson. So take a look at those and share them with your colleagues. I think now I'm going to kick it back over to Carl, and he's going to pull up the CK-12 homepage and show you what this looks like live on our site.
All right, Lindsay, thank you so much. And let's go to ck12.org. All right, so here we are on the home page of CK-12, and if you haven't looked around here, let me just kind of familiarize you, as this is your starting point for using CK-12. Here you'll find our different branches, subjects, and you can click on Show All the Branches to see everything that CK-12 has to offer. While most of what we offer is for middle school and high school, we have started developing some products that give us some K-5 in math, grades 1 through 5 in math, and K-5 for science. And you'll notice we also have some great materials for writing and spelling, and history, teen health, etc. So there's a lot of great products here that you can begin using today with your students. One of the things I want to talk to you today is how to find the FlexBooks. And I think the best way to do this is to enter through one of the branches here. So let's go, for example, to biology. And when you get here, you'll see a list of the units, and the concepts are inside of each one of those. But more importantly, off to the right of the concept tab is the FlexBook textbook tab. So we're going to go click on that. And once we're here, you're going to be able to see the variety of FlexBooks that are available, in this case for biology. You'll notice too that we have some language options. So you can see that we offer content in both English and Spanish. And these are books that have not just been put through Google Translate, but been translated by native Spanish speakers. And I think they've been found to be really useful. I would like to let you know kind of what we offer here. These are what we call our original FlexBooks, if it doesn't have the word concepts in it. And these are FlexBooks that were designed to be very similar to the books that you would get from a publisher. They're divided up into lessons, and each lesson represents one class period of, let's say, 45 minutes to an hour. In 2012, we went to concept-based learning, and we redid our FlexBooks so that indeed you could go in and you could see all the concepts covered. Now, you might want to include more than one concept in one lesson, depending on how long your lessons are. I know a lot of people have double periods and hour-and-a-half classes, so you might choose to cover 3 different concepts in that time. So we felt by breaking up our books by concepts, it makes it easier to customize and match what you need to teach. So you can see here, we have 40 different concepts in this chapter on cell biology, but that doesn't mean that it's going to take 40 days to teach it, okay? So let's go back out here, and you can see we also offer an advanced version of that biology book, and then we have another biology book called Understanding Biodiversity. So you're going to find a variety of textbooks here that you can use. And one of the benefits is you can immediately start customizing it and making it your own. And we're going to see how to do that a little bit later. So at any time, you can click on the CK-12 icon in the upper left-hand corner, and that gets you back to the home page. We're going to learn another way to find FlexBooks, and that's to see what other schools and districts have put together. Well, I'm going to have you go down on this home page until you see these explore circles here. And the last one is schools. So go ahead and click on that. So once again, from the home page, we scrolled down and we clicked on schools. It'll automatically geo-find you and put you in the right state. I'm currently in California, so it put me in California, but let's say I'm from the great state of Texas. There's a good one. And you can come down here and I can see textbooks that have been developed on CK-12 by districts in Texas. And one of them that I want to highlight here is our friends down in El Paso Independent School District. About 4 years ago, their Superintendent Juan Cabrera said, we are not buying any more textbooks. So they came and they developed 4 books for high school science on CK-12, biology, chemistry, physics, and earth science. The next summer, it was such a successful launch that they developed 30 more books, and about half the content that they developed they brought all the content themselves. So for example, AP US History, European History, AP Government, so you can see macroeconomics. So they brought a lot of great content. And the really cool thing right now is that you can go click on this AP Macroeconomics book and you can begin customizing it and making it perfect for your school. So using the schools pages, you can go browse these and find some amazing content that is the foundational content that you can start with instead of having to start from scratch. Because why should we reinvent the wheel all the time when there's a lot of great resources out there available to us? So another thing that you can do is use the search bar up here. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go type in biology. And what it's going to do is going to give me a bunch of content from CK-12 about biology. And you can see it's 672 pages of content. And that's a lot. But I can filter this so that you only see the FlexBooks. On the left-hand side over here, I can click on FlexBooks textbooks. And it's going to filter it so that I can only see the actual ones, the biology FlexBooks. So you can see here's that biology concepts book that is the most popular book on CK-12. There's the advanced one, etc. So this is where you can also use the search bar to help find content that you want. One of the things to notice is that this is community contributed here. That means content that comes from our users. So one of the things that somebody asked me about the other day was, Carl, do you have any NGSS books that people have made already? So let's go ahead and type NGSS. And for non-science people, that stands for Next Generation Science Standards, which is the new direction we're going with science. So let's go ahead and search that. And you'll see that CK-12 doesn't actually have any NGSS books that have been built from the ground up yet. A lot of our content, it works very well with NGSS, but it's not been specifically written. But if you go over here under community contributed, once again, this is the content that our users themselves have created, you're going to find a 9th book, biology book. You're going to find 8th grade integrated 7th grade, 8th grade, 6th grade integrated science. So a lot of the work that you are looking for has already been done, and the search bar is a really good way to do that. Let's go back to the main page again. And we also have browse screens for our simulations covering physics and chemistry, and also Plix.
Carl, I'm going to stop you right there. We had several users say that they weren't sure how to get to that schools page that you were on. And so if you are logged in as a teacher, you will see the schools circled there as the 4th circle. So if you are logged in as a student, they have a slightly different view and they won't see the schools page. Another way to access the schools page is the direct link of www.ck12.org/schools. But that circle will appear there if you're on the teacher page. So sorry to interrupt. Go back to it. I just wanted to point that out while you were there.
No problem, Lindsay. Thanks for that. And I love that people are asking questions as we go, because we really want this to be an interactive experience so that we are addressing exactly what you need. So let's go back to the homepage by clicking on the icon, the CK-12 icon. And I just want to show you, these are our simulations. When you looked at the opening videos, you probably saw a brief moment of these, but these are pretty amazing browse page of all of our simulations. And then our Plix, which are our interactive tool, also covers all the branches of math and science. And you can see, you can select which branch you want and go have these great interactives. The final way that I'm going to suggest that we find content is by, like we did before, let's go into algebra. And here you can see the list of units for algebra. And let's open up linear inequalities and then multi-step inequalities. And you'll be able to find a variety of modalities on this concept page. So here you'll find lessons, which we call reads. In fact, there are 6 lessons available, all about this topic. And then we can go to, we can go back to and see videos. We have 10 videos, activities, our adaptive practice, and a real world application. So finding content on CK-12 is really easy, especially when you know the concept and you just want to find out more information on different ways of learning and teaching that concept. Finally, if you're logged in as a teacher, let's go back to the page. You're going to come down and you're going to see that there is a section here that talks about find a standards aligned FlexBook textbook. Okay, so I'm let's say I'm looking for a Common Core book. Okay, or actually let's just do everything for California, and let's do chemistry, and let's say 11th grade, and it's going to show me exactly what book is aligned, is the best fit for those standards. So you're finding standards aligned content is easy with our browser right there. But make sure you're logged in as a teacher, because this is not a this is not one of the things that we show students.
Okay, Carl, I think we'll ask a couple more questions right now. We have a couple people who are looking for clarification on what we mean by a grade level of FlexBook. Somebody said, how can you tell the grade level of a FlexBook? And then somebody else asked, how can we tell as we browse FlexBooks whether the book is suited for middle or high school?
All right, so that's a great question. And kind of depending on where you're coming from, things are taught at different levels. You know, the bottom line is that we have our science content. If earth science, life science, and physical science are all written for the middle school grades. And if you, let's go, for example, let's go into this book right here. I'm going to open it up. And under the details page, often the grades that it addresses are there. And you know what, I opened up the standards. Let's go open up the whole book. And if you look on the details page here, it'll tell you the grades that it covers. So 10th, 11th, and 12th. So anytime you're on the table of contents, one of the great pieces of information is this. You'll also find information about the authors here. So make sure that you take a look here at the content available.
Another user asked about how often our FlexBooks are updated.
So the wonderful thing about being a digital product is that our FlexBooks are updated all the time. We often, people will send in emails and say, you know, have you thought of updating this because there's new information from NASA? And then we go ahead and do that. So we're constantly refining and improving our books. You know, last year when they finally named the 4 new elements on the periodic table, it was really easy for us to update our information. We aren't stuck to the 7-year cycle, production cycle that the traditional publishers are. So it is something we try to do. But if you see something that's out of date or should be updated, contact us at support@ck12.org and then offer us a suggestion of what we might do. We'd love to hear from you.
Please keep your questions coming. Continue to populate that Q&A window. I'm going to steal the screen back from Carl and go back to my keynote presentation. And we want to talk a little bit about our license. We briefly mentioned it earlier, but when people ask us, you know, how can you do all this on your site? You know, how do I know if I'm license compliant? We use the CC by NC license. And here's just a little screenshot of this. If you're looking for more information, you can go into Creative Commons and learn more about this particular license. But basically, it requires that you say that the content came from us as the source and that it is for non-commercial purposes. So our content is free for all of you to use. You are also welcome to upload anything that meets this copyright license. You're going to want to steer clear of, if you have workbooks from the 90s or 2000s, old publishers, you're not going to want to photocopy anything and upload things to our site that you know were, you know, publishers put together and charge money for their resources. This is really for your open sources, for things that you as a teacher, as a team of teachers have created yourselves and put on our site. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. The next section of what we're going to do is Carl showed you how to locate a FlexBook, but once you find it, how can you start that customization process?
All right, Lindsay, and this is kind of the really exciting moment that I always see wow and aha on people's faces when we talk about this, because it's truly harnessing the power of digital and the power of open educational resources to help make sure that you have the highest quality content for your students. So I'm going to go ahead and steal back the screen from you, and here we are. All right, so let's go now. I know that CK-12 has some brand new Common Core math books, and I'm going to show you a shortcut on how to find them from any of the pages on CK-12, but I'm going to start at the home page, scroll all the way down to this area of links down here. And I want you to click on Common Core Math. Once inside of there, you're going to find our 3 newest interactive books for Common Core that cover the mathematics of high school, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. For each one, too, there's a teacher's guide, which allows, which gives wonderful information of using these books. Let's go in here and open up the book, and I just want to show you what it looks like. This is the table of contents, and these books were not just kind of repurposed books that CK-12 put a new color lipstick on, but we actually built these from the ground up using the learning progressions that were the design of the authors of Common Core. So we're really proud of these. And then just to give you a special look into these books, we're going to take a quick look at one of the lessons in here, and you can see that, you know, there's some just great rich content here, including interactives that the students can try the concept from within inside the lesson. So if you know, and if you don't teach math, but please forward these books to anyone that you know who does, because a lot of people are out there right now just trying to find good quality Common Core content, and this is it. And I could see while we're here, let's go do some highlighting. You click on this little highlighter here, and you can see you can highlight just like that. And highlighting is super, super easy. You also have the option of creating an annotation. So after you read something, you could have the students say, okay, average velocity is the same as the first derivative, etc. So the students can put their notes into the lesson, and then it presents them all down below here in one little section. So everything they've highlighted or everything they've annotated is in one space. So I know a couple people had asked about how does the highlighting work, and you can highlight in different colors, and we think it's a really good way to help students kind of talk to the text. All right, well, let's get into the exciting point, which is let's go customize this book. So here's the magical, from the table of contents, this is the magical button right here, customize. And I wish when we clicked it, there could be some music or something, because this is very exciting. And let's say this is for my, my math class here. I was a high school math teacher for 17 years, and I love math. So it's going to be Carl's CK-12 Interactive Algebra 1 for Common Core book. And there you go. Let's save it. And just like that, I now have my FLEXBOOK. And I can take this URL right here, and I can share it with my students, their parents, my colleagues, my principal, anybody that I want, and they can access and see my content. And I know, you know, a lot of parents are frustrated these days because teachers keep a lot of PDFs and Google folders and things, and then the parents don't have access to them, and they feel very disconnected from the content that's being offered to their students. So I think it's great that you now have a product that you can send to parents and have them follow along. So I can use this book now, and I don't have to change a thing. But if you do want to change something, I want to show you how to do that. Okay, so the first thing that you might consider, let's click edit. And maybe we would change the order of things, okay? Because in my district, you know, we start out with a good unit on data, statistics, and probability as the foundation of what we're trying to teach in math in grade 9. So look how easy it is. There's a rearrange icon over here. If you just drag that up like this, and plop it down there, we've now reordered it. So in just a matter of minutes, you can reorder your textbook to exactly match the scope and sequence for your class. And sometimes that's dictated by your school or your district or your state. And you can create a book that exactly matches the order that you're expected to teach things. The other thing you can do is we're going to open up that unit, and you can see all the chapters. You can even reorder within a chapter, and I can start out with linear regression, for example. Okay, I can even delete things. So let's say you do mean and standard deviation in the state of Carl. So we're going to take that away by clicking the X and clicking remove. So we can reorder, we can remove things, we can even add in new content. So I can add in a new chapter here, or I can add in a new lesson. So let's first add in a new chapter. And this is my chapter is applying math in science as part of my cross-curricular, cross-cutting concepts save chapter. So you can see I can add a new chapter here, and then I can add a new lesson, which we can put inside of it. So my new lesson is Math and Science Intro. And now I can begin writing a new lesson that's part of that chapter. So this is an example of how you can write your own lesson without modifying an existing one. This is a new lesson. Okay. And you'll notice here as part of our editor, it's very familiar icons. If you take our advanced editing course, you'll find out more about the math editor, how to insert an image, etc. So there's a lot of things. You can even embed videos, a lot of things that are really powerful here. We're not going to mention those today because this is the getting started version, but remember our advanced editing is coming up in a future webinar. So we're going to go ahead and finalize this now. Finalize. And now let's go back to my table of contents, okay? So you can see there is, oh, and it's put it as a separate, let's go edit that. I can drag it around and put it in the right chapter.
Hey, Carl, you had a question that was asking, as you're rearranging order of things, you're only doing it on your account, right? You're not deleting it out of the whole section. Do you just want to clarify that for our user? So when I'm doing stuff here, this is in my library. The moment I click customize, I'm not touching CK-12's book or any other book, El Paso's book or Tullahoma's book. I now have made a copy of their book and am now beginning to make the changes in my account, okay? So I think that answers that question. So you can see now I've dragged this here to the correct place, and you can see that Math and Science Intro is now there. So I'm gonna go ahead and click Save Again. And there is my new book, including the Applying Math and Science unit that I've just put together with one lesson in it that doesn't have a very interesting lesson so far, but I'll add to it later, okay? This is a new lesson. That's good to see. All right, and I want to show you a little bit more about editing an existing lesson. So we're going to go back here, and I'm going to click Edit again. And let's go edit an expressions lesson. So I'm going to click this little button over here, which will help me edit that lesson. And the environment is the same that we just saw creating a new lesson, and I can change anything I'd like. So after I talk about the purpose of here, I'm going to talk about types of numbers in Palo Alto. Okay, and this is going to be a specific lesson about numbers in Palo Alto where I'm localizing, putting in things that my students are familiar with that will make this lesson more interesting, okay? This is an example. So, and I can do things like bold, like we talked about. I can do things like underline, etc. So that's all I'm going to do right now. We do have a Are You Stuck over here to help you out if you don't know what to do. I have an option to save this as a draft or to finalize this. So I'm going to go ahead and finalize it. And every time you finalize then, it makes a new version of your book. And once again, just by having the URL appear, your students will be able to access the most recent version there. So we've learned how to find FlexBooks now, and most importantly, we've learned how to do basic edits to help customize them so that it will be the best content for your students. One last thing we're going to do is we're going to remind you to publish. And the benefit of publishing is that other people can find your work then. So I'm going to go ahead and click Publish right now, and it's asking me where did this content come from, and I know that I started with the CK-12 book, so we're going to click that one and click Publish. And it thanks you for your contribution to the CK-12 community, because now this book is findable in our search. So if I was to look for Common Core books now, my book would show up there and people could see the things that I'm doing in my Common Core class in Algebra 1 in Palo Alto, California. So we encourage you to always publish your book so that it's searchable and shareable with the world as part of supporting the CK-12 mission, which is to get quality content in the hands of all students. So 2 questions about publishing. One question is, do you need to publish your book every time you edit it? And then the other one is, in order for students to be able to use the FlexBook, I would have to share it, right? I think you were just talking about the difference between publishing and sharing. So I'll let you discuss that a little more.
Sure. So once you've published it, you can work on a draft version. And once you've finalized it, it's now live for everybody else to see. So that's the difference there. You had a choice of keeping this as a draft or finalizing. And a reminder that every time you finalize, it makes a new version. And if it's already published, it'll still be published, and your students will have access to the newest version. So we have a variety of ways to actually share this. you can share, you can pick up the URL right here and put it into your LMS. You can put it as a link in your blog if you have a blog for your class, or in Moodle, or wherever it is you want to do it. You can also assign it to a class, okay? So you can add this to a class. You can add this, actually, let's go back here. Sorry, I'm misspeaking. So you can share it with the classes. When you're at the table of contents, you can share it with the class and they can add it to their library. Okay. Another thing you can do is use the Shareoplane here, and you can share it with Google Classroom, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. You can also send an email. And so, for example, carl@ck12.org, and I could send off an email saying, look at this great book I found on CK12. Finally, I want to show you the offline reader, because the offline reader is something that makes using CK12 really meaningful, especially with people with connectivity issues. So in the offline reader, you can access chapter by chapter, and you can download each one of those, or you can go and download the whole book at once. But I want to show you here that it's like you can have a whole library of offline things that your students can have access to. So our offline reader is a really wonderful way of getting content to your students where they don't require the internet. And that's available, as I said, on the left of the, right over here, right there on the offline reader. Okay.
Okay, I just was looking at several questions in the Q&A that are asking about how teachers, teams can collaborate and what that looks like when working on a FlexBook. So we actually have a few slides. I'm going to go back to our keynote presentation to talk through some best practices if you're in that situation where you're wanting to work with a team and develop some content.
Great, but let's step back a little bit. Remember, creating the highest quality content is a joint effort with CK-12. Now, the CK-12 content is great to go right now. Off the shelf, you can just use CK-12 and you're going to be using great quality content. But if you could incorporate some customization from your district schools and teachers, it's going to make it stronger because it'll be more engaging for your students. It'll match the order, and by combining it, you're creating the highest quality content that will improve student learning. So this is something to keep in mind when you're using content on CK-12. You don't have to customize it, but you will end up with some really high quality content. And then when you're working with other people, we have some suggestions because, you know, our platform, our programmers, we have probably 15 programmers. We're not like Google that has thousands. So we have some limitations on all the things that we can implement. So we aren't really set up for collaborative editing at the same time like Google does, but we have ways of suggesting using CK-12 for collaborative team. Step one is form your curriculum teams. Make sure that you choose people that are good at writing curriculum. As we know, not all teachers write curriculum. So bring in people from the district level too, bring in curriculum people, technological integration people, then assign one person to be the head of the customization. Break up the work by chapter. We've seen it works really well if different groups or different people work on different chapters, so there's less issues. Incorporate modalities from the CK-12 concept pages. You know, our adaptive practice, our interactives, our videos, and real-world applications have great content that will enhance your lessons and make the lessons more engaging. And finally, get some feedback from the pilot teachers and figure out what changes you need to make. And remember, because it's not just a once every 7-year thing, you can constantly make changes and update and improve your book.
Okay, I'm going to let you all continue to populate that Q&A window. And I want to go into just sort of some wrap-up information that applies to everybody. Sorry, I think I lost the screen here. Okay, there we go. This is the screen that I wanted to get to. Because all of these live sessions, we scheduled them for an hour. And so as we're approaching the hour mark, I always do any relevant kind of reminder tips. And then we're going to stay on after the hour mark. And anybody who wants to stay on and listen is great. But we're going to go through the rest of the questions and make sure that everybody has received answers to whatever it is that you're asking. But right now, a popular question these first couple days of the program is if you're still trying to join our Google Classroom to see all of the different resources, this is a join code that you might want to use. We had to open up a second Google Class because we had so many educators sign up for this program, which is awesome. So you might have joined with a different join code, but if you're looking to join right now for the first time, try typing in VNH7F0. And one thing that we're encountering is some school districts have some restrictions on their Google Class. And we're sorry that this is the case for a few of you. If you get a message that says you got an invalid join code, we're finding about 100% of our users who've encountered that invalid code message, what has happened is that your district is blocking it. So the two ways to get into the Google Classroom if you're getting an invalid code message, it's not that the code is invalid, the code is working, but you either need to talk to your technology person and have them whitelist CK-12, which they can do by going into their Google Classroom settings for the district. Or another workaround is if you have another email address that's not tied to a school domain, if you want to access the Google Class with that email address, we're able to reconcile records on the back end. We'll be able to match your attendance in Zoom with your school address, with your Google Classroom assignments, with your personal address. That's not a problem. We just want to make sure that everybody's able to get in and join, and so that there aren't any, just so you have access to everything that's going on in Google Classroom. We showed you earlier that we have session resources pages, which are hopefully helpful reminders of what was covered in today's session. So you can find that in our Google Class. I think in a minute, Star's also going to chat out just a bunch of links that are helpful to you as you're moving forward with CK-12. There is an assignment for every webinar session that you attend, and even the 2 on-demand sessions. We require your completion of an assignment. We've tried to make meaningful assignments. You're here because you're interested in FlexBooks, and so we want you to complete this assignment with things that are relevant for you. This isn't meant to be busy work. This is meant to be guided exploration, and for you to really get a head start on creating materials that you're going to be using this upcoming school year with your students. So please complete this assignment. When you do so, you'll get an email confirmation that your assignment was completed. And that's all you have to do. You don't need to attach anything or send us any special notes. We're going to know that your assignment was completed. And, we recommend that you do that within a week of attending the session so the information is fresh. But all of the assignments must be complete by the end of July. That's when we wrap up the entire program. And then the first couple weeks of August, we send out our certificates to our newly minted CK-12 certified educators. We have a feedback form. We love receiving your feedback. We know that there are things that went well, things that could be improved. We want to hear from you guys. What's working, what's not working, what we could do differently. So this is not mandatory. This is just voluntary, but know that there is a feedback form in your Google Class. Again, in the content, like the table of contents area of Google Class, it's alphabetized. Under feedback form, you'll see this link, and we read every submission. We read every comment that's submitted to us, and we talk about it. So give us any feedback that you might have. It's greatly appreciated. A couple other things to consider is now that you have the basics of FlexBooks, we hope that you're going to join us for some of the other upcoming FlexBook sessions. We have an advanced FlexBook editing session that's going to demonstrate some of those advanced skills we talked about, more about embedding images and multimedia, kind of best practices and setting up your pages with headers and page breaks, guidance for the math editor, just all of those more advanced skills. Then if you are a math teacher, it would be awesome for you to attend the Common Core Math on CK-12. We're going to highlight our new Common Core interactive book, so you would want to catch that. And then for you folks who are not math and science teachers and you want to know what else is on CK-12 for you, we'll be leading a CK-12 platform for non-STEM users that talks more about finding some of the community contributed content, how you could write some of your own questions, or even how you could develop a book from scratch. You heard us mention in the overview sessions that our team is working on an upcoming release of what we call FlexBooks 2.0. And don't panic if you hear this. All the work that you're doing on your FlexBooks right now, customizing, it's all going to still be relevant when we go to FlexBooks 2.0. The work that you've done is going to be important. But Miral Shah, who's our CTO here at the CK-12 Foundation, he wants to give you guys a little demo of the upcoming FlexBooks 2.0 release. So if you're interested in that, please register for this session. You can register in Google Classroom. We're running it on Monday. If you haven't already done so, you might want to join our Jumpstart for Educators Cafe and start getting involved in networking. We've seen a lot of people join or like our Facebook page. If you're a social media user, you might want to like the CK-12 Foundation. We love seeing your tweets. It's a lot of fun seeing who's using us and what areas. So continue to tweet at the CK-12 Foundation, or for this program, we're using the hashtag CK12 certified. Okay, and then the email address that you guys need is you have program questions, jumpstart@ck12.org is how you get in touch with us if you have any questions. So we have reached the hour mark, and those of you who need to head off of this webinar, go for it. You're welcome to sign out now. Thanks for attending. We hope to see you on a future one. But I'm going to turn it back over to Carl here, and we're going to continue to make headway on the Q&A area and answer the remaining questions that you guys have. So Carl, what do you see in question wise?
No, there's a lot of good questions here. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about NGSS. There are two questions about it, and Michelle's asking about are the California standards the new California NGSS standards or the old standards? So the way I'm going to tell you this is that, right now, states are trying to create framework for the new NGSS standards. And so California and New York and a couple other states have actually created their framework, but they haven't, for example, defined what the assessment's going to look like yet. So we're kind of in this nebulous zone right now. CK-12 has a lot of great content that is available to be used as part of the NGSS approach. But the idea with NGSS is we want our students to think like scientists. So a lot of our activities are activities where the students are thinking like scientists. You'll see in our simulations, there's always a guiding question, and you'll see that it's going to help them begin that kind of different approach to not just learning, rote information. One of the exciting things that you're going to see in the future on CK-12 is specific content for phenomena, and then the supporting content that CK-12 has to help you teach that phenomena, especially when you're required to teach it using content from a different subject area. So for example, you're a chemistry teacher, but you don't really have a strong biology background, but the phenomena involves both of them. You're going to be able to go to CK-12 and get that content. Another thing that you might want to consider is we're going to be advertising a phenomena day in October, and it's actually going to be a 2-day thing that we're going to be having educators come in to our area here in the Bay Area and really participate and talk to the people that are at the cutting edge of what teaching NGSS is. So look for that information.
Looks like another question here is on the chemistry page for FlexBooks, there are 2 CK-12 chemistry intermediates. One is the teacher edition. Can you explain the difference between the 2 books?
Sure. So this is what we're going to call our original FlexBook. Okay, it's chemistry intermediate, broken up by lessons that are 45 minutes to 60 minutes, and then also these are supporting materials for that book. In 2012, when we introduced concept-based learning, we realized very quickly that the moment you start customizing, though, these things are out of date because they're in the wrong order, they have extra things in them, etc. So that's why you're not seeing these support materials. They just weren't needed as much when you're doing concept-based learning. The support to concept-based learning are all the concept pages, that you have about chemistry. So these are going to be concepts that are mini lessons, mini concepts, and these are going to be lessons here. So that's the difference. And then we also have a original FlexBook at the basic level. All right.
Okay, so a next question is, can we use topics in other courses? For example, can I add an Algebra 2 topic into a FlexBook to an Algebra 1 FlexBook?
Absolutely, you can do that. So let's say we're going to go quickly here to, well, I know there's a really good biology topic that I want to include because it's about ecology and it's about ecosystems. And let's say I want to include this lesson in my new Common Core Algebra 1 book. So I'm going to click here, and you can see it's just as easy as selecting Add to a FlexBook textbook. So here's my lesson that I want to include, whether that's from Algebra 2 or Geometry, or even a cross-cutting thing from Science. And let's go click here. And I'm going to say, oh, look, there's the most recent book here, Carl's CK-12 Interactive Algebra 1 book. I want to add it right there. And it's going to add that lesson to an existing FlexBook, or you can create a new FlexBook. So yes, you can do that, and it's really simple here on CK-12.
The next two questions are asking about chapters and sections. I was trying to follow along, but I missed how to add a section to a chapter. Could you show that? And then I figured out how to add a chapter to a pre-existing book, but how do you add a section in that chapter?
Great. All right. The easiest way is to go find the book you want, is to go to your library. And of course, my new book is there. And the question was to how to add a section to a chapter, or could you repeat that? Okay, so let's go down here. And if you look here, here's my ecosystems lesson that I just included. Okay, and I can drag that into whatever chapter I need to. But the question is, let's say we're here. Actually, let's go back here and let's edit this. There we go. So here we are in the edit window, and I'm going to open this up here. And you can see currently there is this math and science intro, and I'm going to drag up this guy to put him also inside of there. And if I wanted to put in another lesson in here, I'm going to choose write a modality, okay? And a modality is just a way of learning, so including lessons. And when I do that, here's my new modality. So we're going to call this lesson on sky, okay? And here it is. We'll make a very short lesson. This is the lesson, and we're done. Finalize. And you'll notice that it puts it on the table of contents at the bottom, okay? So once it's here, I can go reorder it in edit mode. So here's my lessons of sky, and I can go put it, for example, into whichever chapter or unit I want to put it in. So I'm going to put it up here, right here between these two, and there my lesson of sky is actually going to be lesson 6.2. So hopefully you understand now. There, you add content here, and then click save.
A question, if you delete a lesson from a FlexBook by mistake, can you retrieve it?
So if you delete a lesson from a FlexBook, can you retrieve it? Well, one of the most interesting things here, and I have a lot of windows open, there we go, is I want to point out this thing up here. This is your revision number, and your revision number saves all of your previous revisions prior to this. So if you have deleted, the one way that you could do this, if you've deleted accidentally a lesson, you can go back to a previous revision and just add that to FlexBook. So go to that lesson and add it to the FlexBook again, okay? So that to me is the way I would do it. There's probably another way. I don't know, Lindsay, do you know another way? No, I think that's it.
I think the original FlexBook is always there. So if you modified CK-12's biology book and later on you decided you wanted to pull back 3 of those chapters that you deleted originally, you can just add to FlexBook from that. Carl showed you earlier how to merge some FlexBooks. So the content is always there on CK-12 that you can always add back in later if you've rearranged your scope and sequence.
But even if it's a lesson that you've created, the versions will, revisions will keep all your old versions for you so that you can go back and see how the book evolved over time.
Okay, it is looking like our Q&A is empty at the moment, so we're getting close to signing off here. If you have any questions that have not been answered, you're welcome to email us at jumpstart@ck12.org. And we're so appreciative of your time today. Really glad you joined us, and we look forward to seeing you on more webinars the next couple of days. Thank you.